Welcome to my YouTube channel. So here today we are going to be looking at the introduction to C++, how you are going to come up with a hello world. Now we are not just going to do that, we are going to define these terms. We have debugging, so words like debugging shall be defined. Source code, what is a source code? Syntax, what is syntax error? What is a function? What is linking? What is running? So these are asked in your examination and you are required to know them so that it is much easier for you to understand and apply. So I'm going to use the program of hello world. So let's begin. So the first thing in the C++ program is the hello. So let me do this. So we have include. What are you including? So firstly, when you want to input something or output something, it means to say you have to include. Like for example, bringing mathematics on your calculator. If you want to calculate, you are going to input your 3 here plus your 5 and your answer will be 8. So you begin by including these numbers that you are using. So that's why we have include. So this is a simple way of remembering. You have include. I is input, then output. So think of input as 3, think of output as 5. Then the answer is 8, like that. Now, we are going to be using a standard. We are going to be using a standard which we can just use once. Now, the pressure with not using a standard is that, let's say if this standard was omitted, it means to say, instead of just saying C output, you have to put your std like this, which could be cumbersome. Sometimes you will write C out a lot of times. So that's why they say using namespace standard, so that the C++ program can be able to recognize what the C output is. So you say using this. Then we have an initializer, the one that starts the program, which we call a function. So when you look at this one is called a function. So a function performs a specific function, or should I say a function is a reusable code. So when you just write this, you can use it. So it is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific function. So as you now begin to enter your 3 and your 5, you have to start with your int main. So the main function is the initializer. It is the one that starts the process. So that's how come now when you write something like this, after you write this, then you have this symbol. So this symbol simply represents, as you can see, this is an open, so we have curly brackets like that. So this is because you are starting, you start with this one. Then when you end with this one. So whatever you put now inside, when you say C output, it means to say now you want the computer to display the hello world. So C out shows you what you want to display, like that. So C output. There is also C input. Now the bracket, these insertions are very important. So when it's C out, they will point this direction. You can simply think of C out. You have to be looking this direction. C in, it is this direction. So they will ask you in an exam something like this. So then you are going to return 0. Now remember, this is an initializer, int main. So this is what you start with, the integer. Int means integer, so the integer main. So when you are done, you are going to return an integer. So for now, we are just going to be using 0. So it means to say whatever I have entered is correct. So I can say like that. Now with that said and explained, let us now display the code. So let me delete this so that we can be doing it together as you are practicing. So what we are going to begin with is our including. Now it begins with our hash, then we are going to say include. So make sure it has got a specific syntax. So what is syntax? It is just the grammar or structure of programming language that specifies how statements and keywords are used. So that is syntax. So I'll repeat, it is a grammar or structure of programming language that specifies how statements or keywords are used. So the syntax is very specific to the extent such that when you begin your include with the capital letter, it won't work. So I'll explain all these. Okay, let me give you the definition so that when I'm explaining you can be able to relate. So to begin with, when we talk about debugging, so debugging is simply the process of finding and fixing errors. So when you find an error and you fix it, that is what we call debugging. So just think of a bug as something that is dangerous. Now debugging, it means to say you are eliminating it. So it is the process of finding and fixing errors. So all these terms will make sense. Then when we define, what other term do we have? What is a source code? So a source code is defined as the original code written by a programmer in human readable form, what the human can be able to read. So this is what we define a source code as. It is the original code written in human readable, what you can read. You say hello world, cout, and all those are things that you can read. So that is a source code. So know these definitions, they are very, very important. Then when we look at another definition, which we are calling a syntax. So a syntax is simply a grammar or structure of programming language that specifies how statements and keywords are used. So like for example, you cannot write, this is the human aspects. Like for example, you can say the people is coming. So when there are a lot of people, you will say so this, now in computers, when we say syntax, these are grammar or structures of programming language that specifies how statements and keywords are used. So you cannot use is in this sense if we are looking at our grammar. So even computers have a way in which you write, and them they are very specific. So where, let's say, if you are supposed to write hash include with a small letter like this, when you write hash include, you write a capital letter, your code will not run. So now the syntax is very important, and I'm going to show you all these while trying to execute the program for hello world. So you can write this if you are writing. So that is a syntax. It is a grammar or a structure of programming language that specifies how the statement and keywords are used. Now on the looking at the syntax error. So syntax error is simply defined as a mistake in code structure. So as a result, this prevents compilation. So your code has to be compiled before it is displayed. So all these are going to make sense as we look at the hello world programming. So now, sometimes it might not be a syntax error, but sometimes it might be a runtime error. Like for example, if you just get your calculator and write 1 divided by 0, any number divided by 0 is undefined, your calculator won't give you an answer. So that is a runtime error. Everything is correct, 1 is correct, 0 is correct, but you cannot divide. So that is what we call a runtime error. So we can say that a runtime error So a runtime error occurs while the program is running. So while the program is running, causing it to crash or behave unexpectedly. The example that I have given you is, if you get your calculator and press 1 divided by 0, it will give you undefined. So that's a runtime error. What you have pressed is correct, but it is just that it is there is an error in terms of just the runtime, or the system does not recognize that. So that is what we call a runtime error. A variable, on the other hand, is just a named location in memory used to store data. So a variable is a named location used to store data. So a named location used to store data is called a variable. So it can be like the integer x, like this, is equal to 5. So this named location, you are storing it in x, is a variable. So we have the integer int x, like that. We can have the int sum. So whatever you are storing your information as, that is a variable. So a named location used to store data. What have we not defined? So also, what is a function? Though I have defined it, but let's write it down. So a function is defined as a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task. Like the example I gave you was the main. Main was more like, it is a function that starts the operation. It is the one that starts the operation. So when you write int main like that, so this main is a function. This sum is a variable. Then we have the main like that. We do this. Then when you start, it is an open bracket like that. So you are starting. So a function is a reusable. So you can use it as many times. So it is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task or function. The other important term that we're going to be defining is what we call linking. So on its own, what does to link mean? This is just basically combining. So we have combining multiple compiled files into a single executable file, program, or a file. So this is what we call linking. Now the other important term that is used, already link is to combine. So another important term that is used is what we call compiling. So what is compiling? So under this one, this is the process of translating source code into machine code. That is, what we mean is that we want the language which the computer understands. Remember, source code is the language human readable form. Now it has to be changed to what a machine can read. So that is what we call compiling. So compiling, process of translating, so this word is translating, there's a G at the end, translating source code into machine code. So source code is the human readable, what us humans can be able to understand. Now for it to run on the computer, it needs to be converted to a machine code which the computer can be able to understand. So now, which other term have we not defined? So we have defined number 1, debugging, number 2, source code, number 3, syntax, which is just the grammar. We have defined syntax error, number 4. Number 5, we have runtime error. Number 6, we have the variable. Number 7, we have the function. Number 8, linking. Number 9, compiling. So number 10, which one have we not looked at? Okay, just 2 terms. So running. So what is running? So running is simply the execution of a program after it has been compiled. So after you compile into the machine readable, then you can run. So the execution execution of a program after it has been compiled. Running is execution of a program after it has been compiled, and it will display hello world if it is the hello world program. Then what we are going to do is then a very important term, which is IDE. IDE stands for integrated development environment. So it is an environment, not a physical environment, but that could help you remember what IDE is. So IDE being an environment, you can say that it is a software. So remember, an environment, it is not a physical environment. So meaning to say it must be a software. It is a software that provides tools to write, compile. So you are able to write code, compile code, and be able to test your code if your code is working or not. So you are able to test your code like that. So now with those defined, let's now look at the practical examples with a hello world program, in which we are going to also discuss on how you can comment. So all these come in an exam, how you can comment and also be able to create a new line and also a new tab. So as we were saying, we begin our program like #include. So what are we including? So you use this in session. So all these are important. You say IO, so which means you want to include your input and your output. In that case, I said that if you want to enter 3 plus 5, that's your input. 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. 8 is your output. So now you are going to say input output, so stream like that. Then without leaving space, you do this. So you can try this. Then the next one is whatever I'm going to be using, I need my C++ to recognize it. So what am I going to use? So I'm going to say using namespace std. std means standard. So this standard, now this, think of this as a full stop. This will help you be able to understand. So think of this as a full stop. Now this is when you're done with your code, you're going to be putting this. It's more like when you're done with your sentence, you're going to be putting that. So you just need one like that. Then after you say that, you're going to say, so the next step that you're going to do is that you're going to introduce, now you want to start your code. So you're going to begin with your int. Then you're going to say main. Main is a function. It performs a specific task. So it is a function that you begin with. When you do that, you go to the next line. Now, since you now want to begin, you open the brackets. Think of it as sets. So you open your brackets like that. Then what you're going to say is that, now remember, the input output is important because it helps you now be able to display this. So with the cout, you are going to say character output. So what do I want to see? So I'm going to say double insertion like that. Then put them in these types. Don't do this. Don't put them as separate like this. Your code will not work. That's syntax. So this and this, if they are aligned, they are different. So you put the ones that are already double there. Then you are going to say whatever you put. So this is character output, meaning to say I want to see this. So we are going to say hello world. So hello world like that. So whatever you write, here is what is going to show. So you're going to say hello world like that. Then after you do that, what you're going to do is that you're going to close with these double marks as you did at first. Then we are going to say double insertion end line. So this is end line. So endl means end line like that. You're going to understand what we mean. Then remember, your execution will begin with your main int. So you're going to say integer main integer, which is int is integer main. Now integer is all numbers beginning from 0. So you are now going, when you're done, you are going to return your integer 0. So that is where that integer 0 is. Then you think of this as a full stop, as I said. So as you can see, when we are ending, we are putting our full stop like that. Think of it as a full stop. Then finally, you close your code. So if there is no mistake, the code should be able to compile. But if there is a mistake, it will not be able to run. So I'll press here. So what it is giving me is hello world. Now let's look at it. So as you can see, so this is the full code. So this full code has your everything here using namespace and all that. So this is after I press here, this is what we call running. So it's telling me that the program has finished and it has displayed what I want. So cout is character output, meaning to say what do I want to see. Now looking at it, we have include this using the namespace std and integer main like that. We have everything there. Now let's try to make a mistake. Let's say I begin with a capital letter for the word using. So when I do this already, that is going to be, it has given me, it is saying unknown type using the name using, just this same you. So now that is what we call syntax. It is specific in the words that you are able to use and the words that you are allowed to use. So syntax is very, very important. So syntax is very, very important. So that's how come when I just make one mistake, it's going to register as something is wrong. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to correct it by using small letter u, and my code should be able to run like that. So already that's syntax. Whenever you have a mistake like that, that's a syntax error. Now looking at this, we have the end line like this. Now let's see what this means. Let me copy this. Let me copy this like that. So when I copy this and I paste it like this, let's see, I compile my code and what I'm able to see is it's saying hello world twice. And as you can see, this is a new line. As you can see, those are new lines, they are different new lines. So that's why it is saying end line. So now let's see what happens when I remove this endl. So endl means end line like that. So I remove up to here. I try to compile. You will find that it will be in the same line, hello world like that. So now this is not just the only way. So this is how you end line. You say end line. So that is not the only way of ending the line. You can also use this way. So the other way of ending the line is, so the double insertion still stays. Then what you are going to do is, you're going to use your double apostrophes like that. Then a forward slash. So it has to be a forward slash like that. Sorry, backslash end like this. So, okay, there's an error. It's supposed to be a forward slash. So that was a syntax error, forward slash like this, forward slash, why has it gone on the other page? So forward slash like that. Then okay, where am I making the mistake? After the expression, so that's a syntax error. Expected termination. Okay, so the full stop, I forgot the full stop, which is this one. So okay, so hello world. It's not, this is not what I want, but okay, sorry, it's supposed to be, I don't know why at first it didn't compile, but it's supposed to be, is it a backslash? Yeah, so it is supposed to be this type of a slash, which is a backslash like that to go to the next page. So you need to have this type of a slash. So as you can see, this performs the same function, and you can be asked in an exam which one is the new line. So it's either endl like this or this type of a slash. So this is a backslash since it's moving from up to down. So this is a backslash like that. So now, with that said, we have compiled our code and it has hello world like that in different lines. So there is also one for a backslash, then you press your tab creates space like that. So as you can see, there is space between, so that is the working of tab. So there is the space between there, and that is the working principle of tab. It creates spaces between. So remember, this is a backslash. So now one important thing about C++ is we can be able to tell another person who is a programmer, you can tell them what you are doing. So what are we doing? You can comment. So this is commenting. You use double forward slashes. Then you are going to have you are going to put what you are doing, which is just, we are program for displaying hello world. So that when someone reads this, they will be able to tell that this is what is going on. So program for displaying hello world like that. It will still compile. Now the essence of writing this one, this is what we call a comment. So this is how you comment. You use 2 forward slashes like that, then write whatever you were doing. So this is just there to help someone know what you are doing. What is this program for? They should be able to know before they run the program. Then the other important way of doing a comment, so the comment is not compiled together with these other things. You can be able to do this. You use 1 forward slash, then you are going to use your star. So it's more like you are putting an emphasis like that, star, another star. So whatever is between the star is what you are doing. It's as simple as that. Then use the slash like that. So if you have an option like this, that means to say that is the program for displaying, or this is a comment. Provided with such a question, which one of the following is the correct comment? So commenting is double slash, you write whatever you want. Now this one is not accepted because the star is out, unless you put forward slash star hello like that, another star, then forward slash. This is the correct comment if it is like this. So if we have this, it's only that the person got it correct. We have which one is the correct syntax for output. So it is C output, double insertion like that, then write hello world. If you want, you can put a comma depending on what you want the computer to display. Now the only thing wrong with this one is that it is just saying end, but it's supposed to say end line. So if it says end line, then it is okay, but since there is no endl, then it is not okay. So the syntax is very, very specific. Hello world, cout is always these symbols, unless if it's cin is like this. So let's look at this. If you have the variable for age, you are going to use input. It means it's cin, the bracket should point in this direction, then write your age like that. So the answer for this one is B. So that is the scene. We are going to understand this when we understand how to come up with the calculator. So we have defined everything. Debugging is simply correcting whatever mistake is there. We have running. Whenever you have made the program, you run it, it passes. That is what we call running. The syntax error occurs when you have made a mistake. A function performs a specific task, like the main function has got the function of more like just starting up the reaction. We have the input, output, and all that. So we have exhausted everything about that program. Thank you very much, and see you in the next tutorial, where we are going to talk about the declaring variables. Thank you very much. Subscribe so that I can make more powerful content like this. See you in the next tutorial.